It's about 5:30 Mountain Time. In the part of the world I'm at, it's actually a day ahead and 6 hours behind. Grateful for you taking the time and joining us here. This is basically a town hall for the digital world, as well as an update for those in Clear United with the ripple effects that people said, hey, we just can't let go of these other things. So generally what we'll do today is we will go over any advancements over the last week and then general Q&A. We're grateful for those that are here in attendance, yourselves, any of the questions in the different rooms, as well as those that are providing support. And this is not a support ecosystem, but we're grateful for you taking the time. This is a private membership ecosystem. Some of the things we'll talk about may be forward-looking comments or perspectives. And really what we're talking about is connecting a decentralized ecosystem like phone with storage, so decentralized storage, with a new way that humanity can basically adopt the digital world. Instead of it being centralized, it's decentralized. It's a simple model, simple strategy, where you connect in phones, which majority of humans have, and then how those basically interact. There's a couple different ways. So for those of you that are joining us from Clear United, you have the opportunity to tell other people about what this is. This is not something that we advertise or push. It's word of mouth. It's from you. It's from you understanding the importance of decentralization, as well as leveraging open source technologies and how that can basically benefit not just our current dispensation, but for future generations. Some of the things we're going to be talking about are governmental bodies basically adopting it, and that is a direct approach. So we're working directly with them. One of the things I'd like to report out from this last week is this. So we have completed a meeting with the International Monetary Fund, which I personally have spent a lot of time trying to understand before I pass judgment. And kind of like what happened when we went to Davos in the World Economic Forum in Switzerland many years ago, it was, let's try and understand, let's seek to understand, and then help them to understand, hey, maybe centralization isn't a good way forward. But my eyes have been opened in many ways. One, I'm grateful that they allowed me to be there, even though they didn't want me there. I was actually a delegate for Tuvalu. So most of you know that we work with Tuvalu and helping them to digitize really their Tuvalu as the first digital nation. And it was eye-opening to see. There were other countries in the South Pacific that were there, and it was all around digital money. So not just e-money, but digital money, decentralized money or centralized money. And it was an important opportunity to just gain a perspective and understanding over this 2-day event. This was in Nadi, Fiji. And I really wanted to try and understand how some of these centralized systems think and operate from a place of positivity and upliftment. But ultimately, by the time I left, it was a very disheartening experience. But ultimately, eye-opening, and not only that, but it underscores the opportunity that we have to drive awareness based upon open technologies where everyone can share and benefit from it, but it specifically developed decentralized systems with this open technology. I think more importantly than ever, at least from my own personal experience, providing an alternative to centralized systems is just imperative. Imperative is really, it's the right word, so to speak. I'm going to go ahead and share this on a different level so you can see a little bit better. But the folks on the front, wonderful gal here actually works in Fiji. The rest of them, excluding this individual, so the rest of these folks here basically work for the International Monetary Fund. And for those that are not aware, the International Monetary Fund provides funding for particular opportunities, and I'll just leave it at that. But for those of you that have heard me historically, the perspective has always been that this funding may come from in conjunction with things that are focused on centralization. And really what this was, from my perspective, The individuals in the Pacific are wonderful people. They're actually very intelligent. Um, I think that they're more than intelligent when it comes to spirituality. I really believe that they're in touch with the right things, with the right drivers, and in the end, they'll make the right decisions. But they need information. And this was an opportunity for the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, to provide them information and perspectives. And I think some of them walked away, at least this was their words, some of them walked away more confused than when they came. And I was talking with a gentleman 2 days ago, and he really used an amazing analogy because he's been in the Pacific for a very long time. He's actually from New Zealand. He ran for prime minister. He served the country from a military standpoint and from a legal standpoint, and he's just really tried to do what's right for humanity. And he says, watching these different bodies within these ecosystems is like watching children go into a candy shop that's been designed to basically only show one type of candy. And so when the kids go in, they see, hey, there's something shiny and something new and something that may taste great, but ultimately they only have one choice. And really the goal, at least from my perspective, was to help them to know that there are other flavors, there are other choices. Specifically, there's a path between centralization and a path between decentralization, and driving awareness around what this technology can actually do for humanity in general, as well as for these different ecosystems within the Pacific. So it was very eye-opening to see. It was a wonderful opportunity to get in front of some of these different countries. I, for the last 3 to 4 days, have had a heavy heart when I wake up in the morning because I feel like I didn't do enough. I feel like I didn't say enough. My comments at the end, there was the gentleman sitting right next to me, literally by design didn't want me to provide any kind of feedback. And out of respect, I didn't provide my perspective, at least then. But I will continue to underscore and continue the fight to basically make sure that the awareness around decentralization is understood and realized for those countries that actually want to self-select and be a part of it. The rest of the individuals from the center here, this man is driven by the spirit and by good intentions. I really believe that that he will understand, at least if he's given the opportunity, he will understand the importance. And these people are just amazing people, from Vanuatu to Solomon Islands, all the way over to Tuvalu. There's some of these folks here and here, but just really good opportunity to meet with some amazing people, all the way from Tonga and Samoa, and just amazing folks. So one of the things that I found very interesting was this slide. And there were about 3 different slides that analyzed this type of data set. These are all the different countries, and they stack rank them based upon population, GDP, currency, and banks. And so they're basically looking at those at the top that are ready for a type of digital money. Now, most of them have e-money, which is not, and it's good that they're separating, if you go and for instance, if you turn money in, you turn a fiat dollar in, and you actually get a credit or a reward or others that can be a form of value, but actually having a ledger behind it that provides transparency and data sets, they're understanding that there is a different gap between e-money and digital money. So, but down at the bottom here, you'll see Tuvalu. You'll see them at the very bottom. So literally, GDP and population is the lowest on the rankings. And the message is, we will work with the most difficult environment. Majority of it doesn't have an internet connection. They had their own currency from a coin standpoint, but they actually peg their value to the US dollar. So they don't have per se their own currency. today, all of their different systems, from identity management, whether it's around driver's licenses or passports, I should say driver's licenses, land management, financial records. So they do have a bank. There's two banks. We actually went and opened an account with one of them, and literally you write it down like we used to keep our checkbooks when we were growing up, so to speak. The actual driver's license process, you go through 2 or 3 different people that are all written, and it's a process that is literally, it's a registry within a book. I also went through that process, and it's just been very eye-opening, but at the same time, it provides a real opportunity for massive growth and massive, what we call leapfrogging, as technology and innovation is leveraged. So the goal is to take the weakest of the weak, the least traveled country, the least country with internet connectivity. They do not have fiber. Their fastest connectivity is a satellite uplink that is basically half of a Starlink system. And they use that for all the cellular phones in the whole country. So it was very painful, as for those of you that know, I love technology and I love to push it to its limits, but it was very hard for me to have the patience to operate within that ecosystem. But we will ensure that they are successful to be able to become digital. Why? Because not only is Tuvalu one of the least traveled countries in the world, but it's actually the one that is prone to lose its boundaries. Its water is, there's a point where it's like literally 30 feet from one side to the other. And as the earth warms, the water rises and earth disappears, especially when you start looking at tides and other things like that. So it's about 1 million square kilometers of ocean, and it's got a bay of about 10 by 12 square miles. So it's a substantial part of the world, but at the same time, not many people have heard of it. The leadership there are truly paying attention, whether it's right or it's wrong, or whether it's engaging and asking questions. The cabinets have met, Parliament has met on all of these topics, and they're committed to the Declaration of Unity, and they're committed to understanding how they can preserve not just their own language, but their own culture and their own people as lands disappear, as the waters rise. So this is a very important focal point, and you'll see other countries that are tying into it, whether it's Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, Fiji, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea. These are parts of the world that were also at this meeting. And I believe that it was a gauging process to try and understand who's going to do what and by when and by where and how. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be at the bottom of the list, working with Tuvalu and helping them to leapfrog over not just the countries in the Pacific that's on this list, but I believe leapfrog over a lot of the most advanced first world countries in the world to leverage decentralized cryptographic-based technology that is literally can manage governments at a high level. So most of you are already aware of this, but that's basically the work that we've been doing. These are the individuals that I said, thank you for having me here, even though you didn't want me here. And I am grateful for those that would even try and see a different perspective, even though they would give lip service to saying, we will actually try and understand what you're talking about. They just didn't really want to see it. They didn't want to understand that the concepts that they're talking about are literally infant compared to the solutions that we've already been rolling out and have for many years and working on for well over a decade. So I just wanted to report out on that for this last week. And one of the biggest advancements was really just basically seeing the actual technology in production. So some of these are on clear phones, some of these are on third-party phones, some of these are actually based upon apps that are specific within one country, and some of them actually tied to other countries. So each country can have its own app, it can have its own currency, it can have its own interaction, and they're all working with the same chain. And they can also be cross-chain, and they can also interface with the general world of what's called crypto. So the Bitcoins, the Ethereum types assets, which we look at as a very slow asset and not not the same type of work that we're talking about here. So we're grateful to work with some of these individuals that are literally pioneers. And I'm grateful for you coming on, taking the time to understand the advancements. I'll go ahead and field a question or two, and then just continue forward. So if there's any thoughts or questions, feel free to raise your hand or unmute. I know that this is multiple different rooms, so if you ask a question in a room where there's not a lot of people, I'll go ahead and repeat it. And then this is also streaming on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as on Clear One. Thoughts, comments, questions? Anybody? Looks like everybody's on mute still. I see a couple coming off. Go ahead.
Michael, it's James here.
Hi, James.
Might sound like a fairly basic sort of overall question, but how easy and how do you see things panning out over the next sort of 5 to 7 years with regards to centralized, like your CBDC, for example, versus what we're trying to do here? And how do you personally see it panning out? I know you've got your ideal scenario, but how do you personally see it panning out and the two dovetailing along this sort of weird and wonderful course that we seem to be going across at the moment?
I personally believe that there will be centralized systems and decentralized systems in the new digital ecosystems. The CBDCs that you're talking of, those can be based upon a combination of the tech. Where really the rubber meets the road is when they talk about anti-money laundering and know your customer processes. And I actually, do I believe that everybody needs tracking and tracing? No, but is it something that there should be a battle and a war fought over the current process around the Patriot Act and the privacy topics? Those things are going to continue to be pushed forward. So in effect, what they're doing with CBDCs and centralized digital systems is they're actually centralizing decentralized systems. So even if you had something, let's say Bitcoin, because people understand that that's a very good decentralized system. If you layer on top of it, a system that says, hey, we need to know your name, we need to know your date of birth, we need to know your phone number, we need to know an address or whatever. And then they're going to basically link that data with a public address that is a decentralized system. So do I think it's the end of the world? No. Do I believe that decentralized open technologies is absolutely emphatically the way forward for humanity? Absolutely. Do I believe that the centralized systems will do everything in their power to be able to keep control? I do. And I see it all over the place. I see, this meeting is a really good example of it. But I also believe that the technology and the people behind the policymakers and those in these different countries that actually care about sovereignty and they care about privacy, I do believe that they'll make the right decisions. I also believe these are very honest people. They do not want fraud and corruptions within their system, but they do want transparency and honesty and transactions that are real time, transactions that are very transparent, transactions that don't cost a lot. If anything, it costs next to nothing, a thousandth of a cent. And they want to be servants to their citizens. I truly believe that majority of the folks that are inside of, I'll go back a couple slides here. The majority of folks that are inside of this slide, they truly do care about making the right decisions. If I were to answer your question directly, for those that didn't hear it, James was asking for a forecast 5 to 7 years based around CBDCs. And I really do believe that within 5 years, we will have all systems, majority of systems worldwide will be replaced with digital-based systems. The ultimate question at the core of your question is, will they be centralized or will they be decentralized? And that is the specific fight that we're fighting starting in the Pacific. The Pacific is full of people, cultures, minds, and spirits that I believe will ultimately do the right thing. They need knowledge, they need data, they need an understanding. But for those that haven't traveled to the Pacific, they have systems that are much more advanced than either other parts of the world. Other parts of the world that are very centralized will be one of the last to adopt decentralized or even digital ecosystems wholeheartedly. You will see smaller countries that, for instance, in New Zealand, before some of the corruption and crazy stuff that's going on, they deployed a technology called FPOS. And that technology would actually, you just tap it and it goes really fast and it's just super simple. And then you go back to the US and they have this chip thing. You can tap and all these others, but they're actually, and I don't know if you really understand the difference between swiping versus inserting a chip, but the data that is actually tracked, the metadata behind it is what's very different. Instead of just using a card reader to say, hey, this card number is what is actually doing the transaction. The chips do a lot more with validating and verifying as well as tracking. And it's not that tracking is bad. As a matter of fact, tracking is very good, but privacy, sovereignty, and independence needs to be realized. And the goal, James, is to make sure, and I would even say over our dead bodies, when I say, and I can't speak for others, but over my dead body, will we just give up the fight against centralized systems? Because if we give up the fight and we give them the ability to control the systems, it's not just going to be, oh, access denied, you can't go here, or you can't travel here, or you can't spend these types of dollars or cents. Some people would call it capital controls. For instance, there used to not be a day where you had a limitation on what you could take out in an ATM, whether it was in one transaction or within a 24-hour period. But majority of us actually have cards where it's like $500 US, that's the max you can take out on one card over a 24-hour period. You think about that. That's money that you've saved or earned or have, and that you're limited to be able to actually access. There's a problem there. I went, there's another technology, not just FPOS down in New Zealand, but M-Pese, which is a technology that was purchased by Vodafone, and then Vodafone in Fiji was purchased, at least a holding company that owns a majority of it was purchased by the Fijian government. And you can pay your bills in it, you can scan. So you basically, whenever you go to checkouts, whether it's, let's say there's a grocery mart and they have 10 checkouts, they have a little scan for each one of the checkouts. And it basically links to the point of sale system and the receipt system, and it's a form of payment. Now it's expensive, but it's somewhat real time, but it's not digital money. It's what they call electronic or e-money. So there's no ledger behind it that actually tracks or traces, or, I mean, think about it from this standpoint. What if a company that wanted to sell a product could actually have a rewards or loyalty program with someone without even knowing who they are? Or you could actually pay them to market to them. Or imagine a checkout process where someone actually purchases a product. Let's say it's a stay at a hotel. Let's say it's a stay at a Marriott. And the taxing authorities got paid in real time, as well as they got paid as Marriott got paid in real time. So Marriott doesn't have to wait the many days that Visa processes. They don't have to pay the 3%. And the taxing is actually done in accordance with that particular transaction. So for instance, what happens if someone later on says, we actually have a problem, we want our money back? Does the taxing authority then have a clawback to be able to pay that back? So in this new accounting world where we have ledgers, taxing, reporting, transacting, costing, all of it gets super simplified. So I believe that within the next 5 years, there will be massive adoption, and to the point where over 80% of systems will actually adopt it. So that's a very big statement, because think about that. 80% of all financial systems in the whole world, with tons of different currencies, with tons of different regions, we're predicting that actually all of the payment processing is going to go from a fiat money, or what the world knows as like a MasterCard, Visa type transaction, over to a real digital transaction on a ledger. So that's a huge prediction. Again, I would underscore, it all comes down to, is it centralized or is it decentralized? You know, and this gentleman here at the end was like, please be very brief with your comments. You know, and I wanted to just tell him, hey, as a representative of Tuvalu, Tuvalu is all in. They're going to focus on digitizing not only the individual, driver's licenses, passports, financial systems, land management, asset management, registration systems. So if people want to register a boat, if people want to, et cetera, you know, they're all in. And from when they look at it, you know, they're the weakest state. So they're actually going to go and leapfrog over. But not only that, but the rest of these folks are going to be given the opportunity to leapfrog over the best of the best in the world. So some people would say the UK or the US or Japan, you know, these, and I would even, there's tons of other good examples, but I believe that using a decentralized architecture that uses cryptography to actually allow people to identify themselves from a simple phone, you know, a phone that they currently own, or a phone that's a decentralized phone where they don't need usernames and passwords, but they can own their own data and they can verify who they are. A lot of people think, well, that sounds just like a dream and it sounds like the future. But the gorgeous part of this particular meeting is these are leaders of different countries that are saying, we are interested. A lot of them are very confused. A lot of them kind of want to just get game film as other countries roll out. And a lot of them don't even want to change. But the change is inevitable. The digital ecosystems are coming. The question is, will it be a centralized digital ecosystem, or will it be a decentralized ecosystem like what the digital world offers? And to be boldly honest with your answer, James, I actually believe that the regulators / central systems, secret combinations, will actually try and ban anything that is not a CBDC, anything that is not centralized. And we're here to say these decentralized systems are actually better than the centralized systems. What happens when someone within the centralized systems get power hungry and says, or grabs data that's just totally crazy? I mean, you can, the class distinction, the separation, the controls, it should not be in one central system or one group or even a combination of group systems. It really needs to be decentralized, with the individual being accountable for their own keys and their own identity. So I hope I've answered your question. I know it's a long ways around, but did that make sense to you, James?
Yeah, it did. Thank you for being so eloquent and detailed on that. Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. Well, the crazy part is I've had a long time to think about it. And
well, I know while you're thinking, I'll just say, I know you've been thinking about this day or this sort of period in time coming for over a decade. So it's one of those where you've had a lot more forward thinking than most, and time to really delve into everything and explore these options that we're now being presented with by obviously Clear and some other good projects as well. So yeah.
You're spot on. And thank you for your support and your belief over the years. And we look forward to a bright future together. And thanks for taking your time and asking questions. We've got a
So Mike,
say again?
I was just going to say, I just seen somebody's popped a question in the chat.
Yeah. So one of the questions that just came in through chat, we'll fill them both chat as well as verbally. So that some of the stores have been sold out. Okay, so what we're going to do, this question goes to inventory. So we're going to go to clear.store. And great observation, really good observation. So this is clear.store or www.clear.store. www.clear.store. And you'll notice that a majority of the phones, so out of 5 product lines, 3 of them are now completely sold out. So the latest one to be sold out are the Clearphone 420s. Prior to that was the Armor phone, and prior to that was the Clearphone 222s. So the current phones that are available are the 620s, and that comes in 2 different versions, one with Google and one without Google. And then the Freedom phone. So we've kind of got still the high end and low end. So you've got the Freedom phone, which is really a newer version of the Clearphone 220. And there's good inventory levels on that. That is a version that does not work with Google. So if you want a phone that's going to work with Google, you're really kind of pushed into the flagship best phone out there. This is the one I use. I love it. I love the size of it. A lot of people say it's just too big, but it's like, too big for what? Is it a pocket or a purse, or is it because anyways, I love the size. I don't feel like I need a tablet, and it is 7.12-inch screen, so it is a large phone, but it's basically the Clearphone 620 and the Freedom Phone 222 are the only models that are currently available. So I hope that answers the question that was asked there. And if not,
Michael,
go ahead.
Can I just ask? So obviously, and I always have to reiterate this to people, is that Clear is based on a completely different model, not just with the affiliate aspect, just generally as a company, with it being a not-for-profit and the way that it operates. 40% of it going into the influencer aspect of it for affiliates, then 40% of it going into making the phone, making it better, and then 20% into admin overhead support, and any leftover profit goes to charity. That's basically it in summary.
Yeah.
But that's what I try and explain to people. Look, when these models reach a certain amount we've ordered or whatever as a company, then what happens is that obviously if there are going to be new models coming out, they don't want to just go and say, right, let's get another 50,000 of these made or whatever, because we know that there's other things coming. How are we going? This is my main question. How are we going to convey that to myself and my team, but also obviously other Clearphone users around the world and other Clearphone teams? Because it's kind of hard if you're trying to do this as a part-time or full-time income, to know if we can't have any forward planning and then suddenly out of nowhere we've got 10 people lined up for 420s and then it goes sold out. What are we supposed to say to them? That's the big thing, really. If
you've got opportunities that you're currently working like that, just go ahead and push that into support. They'll find some inventory allocation.
I know I can do that, Michael, personally, and I do that for my team as well. But that being said, then people go the question, is that when the new one's coming out and then they hold off on it, for example? So if it's like right around the corner, there are new ones coming out next month. Fantastic.
That's really good. It's a really good question. And if you scroll all the way down, you can see fully released products versus pre-release products. And when you come into this pre-release product ecosystem, you can see the current models that are basically in development. So for instance, this phone here, I personally have it with me. I'm testing it, the different camera, the different structure, and it's slated to release in July 2023. The problem around this, when we go and look at some of these pieces, is this thing is only funded, what is this, 57%. So the viability of us actually launching it in July is not even 100%. So you need to be aware that even though there's a product, there's hardware, there's software, there's all of it, we've got to be able to sell it, so to speak. So with that funding then, and sorry to go into the minutiae here a little bit, how does that work? They have to pay for it in cash there and then on the website, and then do those funds get released to members in my team, for example, if they find somebody that wants to buy one of the pre-release products, or does it get held onto for several months or until it becomes a thing? How does that aspect work? It basically has to hit a certain percentage. So if let's say that 100% is reached, then this July date would actually have a released product on it, and they would get their phone. If it's not 100%, then they would just get their money back. So it's basically you're going to get a phone that's the future, or you're going to get your funds back, and that's basically how it works there. So it's
Yeah, that's difficult though from an affiliate point of view, just being obviously hypercritical. And I'm not critical of Clear itself, but just obviously if you're trying to do it from a business, you're like, well, hopefully we'll get enough funds by, met by July, or hopefully enough by August, and people commit to that rather than buying a phone here and now. People are going to be a bit brassed off if they've gone and sold a phone, and then obviously it doesn't get funded, and it doesn't, funds are returned, and all that hard work they've done is gone. And I know it's because of the business model and the way that Clear operates and where we need to get to, but it's just, it's that difficult one. Is there a way of doing it where people get fallback option of the 620 or this, that, the other, or something like that? I don't know. I was just wondering, so that people can get physical, tangible.
Let's dig into that recommendation. When you say a holdback option of a 620, what does that mean?
Well, for example, like a fallback option. So, for example, they go for the Clearphone 623, and then it doesn't get. I don't know where that's at in funding, but that doesn't get matched. But then obviously they get, they get the 620 instead for $100 less at the $11.99, which it is right now. Or there's even a bit where it's like, well, if you don't get that, we'll actually knock 10% off the cost of the 620 for you, and you get a bit cheaper for believing in our product. I don't know. I'm just thinking of options.
That is a brilliant recommendation. And to be honest with you, it's something we never thought of. So what I just heard you say is, let's say somebody wants a 622, 623, 624 futuristic model, and it doesn't materialize, then they would basically be able to get the 620 as an option, or they can get their money back. That's fine. There's no problem at all with that. We just have to make sure we have inventory available.
I've got lots of ideas on this kind of stuff, and I'd love to obviously talk to you about it on another time instead of taking up the whole of this call. But for example, if it's like hopefully you trust us enough, so it's Clearphone 623 for $12.99, or you get the 620 with or without Google, whichever you decide, and that's your fallback option. It's not a refund, but you get that at 10% off. So if Clear don't lose the funds, the affiliate doesn't lose the funds. There's no refund as such, but that you're either getting the 623 for $112.99, or you're getting the 620 or 628 for the price less 10%. So there's an incentive there on both ends. You're back in the new model in the future, and you're also then getting a deal and a half by getting 10% off if it doesn't happen.
I think that's a brilliant recommendation. What I would propose is we actually just internally review it, shoot holes in it, and launch it. I see zero issues with what you just recommended. Everybody wins. The affiliate model wins. The end user wins. Whether they're getting a new phone one way or the other, and they're either going to get a current model with a discount, or they're going to get a futuristic model without a discount. So everyone's winning. I can't think of any negatives. So what we'll do is we'll commit to have an internal leadership team meeting and roll out a program based upon that, because that would be simple to do.
And I know, sorry to keep saying all this stuff while everybody else is probably thinking, why is he banging on about this? But it's because I believe in the project so much. I'm just wondering, is there a chance? Because, I don't need anything for this, but I would love to be able to join in on this stuff and actually throw a few things around, just because I get excited by it. I want to improve things and help things move along at a fast pace. And I genuinely think I've got some value to add.
Yeah, happy to have a review meeting with you. It'll pull it from an internal, but we'll just have two separate meetings, which, like I said, we're just grateful for people like you that actually see the future and are willing to invest the time. And the simple thought process is just like this. This is a really good example. It's details like this that's actually going to get across the finish line with a future that is actually methodically thought through for the betterment of humanity. And we're not just talking about phones. We're talking about what's behind the phones, because we all know we're not here for phones. We're here for decentralization. And it just so happens we had to build the phones to get the actual model to work. But in the future, we see a world where, whether it's a Clear phone, a Freedom phone, an Armor phone, or a Google phone, whether it's an Android-based system or whether it's a Apple-based system. We see a world where decentralized architectures are an option for everyone. The real issue is we had to start somewhere, and we were forced into building our own phone, hardware, software, services, marketplace apps, all of it to be able to get to that. So, we've got hundreds of thousands of hours into this architecture, and, but to be honest with you, it really doesn't matter if people can't just simply use it. And that's why we're working hard on just, digital life apps and then also respective countries that tie to that. So Fiji Life, Tuvalu Life, these different apps that tie into it. So, but the simple answer to your question is your recommendation's wise. Thank you. And we would be happy to set up a time to just connect with you and talk about this or other thoughts that you may have. And I would say let's get some of the other team members involved. We're all kind of in weird time zones, as you know, and let's just make it happen. So,
well, I'll jot down a few of my initial thoughts on an email to you and Wally, and then we can go from there if that's okay.
That sounds great. We'll follow your lead. We'll go ahead and thank you. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and take the next question or thought or comment. We have about another 8 minutes left before we wrap up.
Hey, Michael, it's Beck. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Just a quick one. Does Claire or the Digital World have any marketing social media pages at all?
Yeah, so good question. I'll repeat for those that are in different rooms. So does Claire or any of the Digital World have marketing pages or social media pages? So I'll go ahead and pull some of those up now. So first off, I'll jump into, and you know what, it might not be. Where's a good place to go? I think this is a good one. So clearfoundation.com, I want to say, has links to all of the different, let's see if I can find it real fast.
Just so I know, like, the right ones to tag. Like, if I'm sharing something, then I can start tagging, for marketing purposes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. But I don't know,
does anyone run those pages?
We do have some folks that have run them over time, but I would say there's nothing that's real consistent with it. But there are LinkedIn pages, there are Facebook pages, there are Instagram pages. And, as I'm thinking through it, there's no central place to kind of see all of it. The best place is probably over on clear.co.com, where you can see all the different organizations. But, now that you mention it, it's not in one particular page. Let's see if we can find something here. Yeah, I would say that it's out there. So if you go to Facebook, oops, I don't know that this is going to get us anywhere. If you come in here and you say Clear United, so you'll see that there's an actual page, and you'll see that there's folks that are involved. This particular one has 2,200 followers, so not a ton. But you'll see interactions. For instance, you'll see this different stream the video that we're actually asking this question on live. You'll see that this is live and posted there, as well as any of the other ones. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, again, Clear United, Clear Center, Clear Cellular. So those are all basically ones that tie into this model. So they've got, Clear Cellular on the phone, Clear Center on the storage, Clear United on the marketing side of it to drive the awareness. All of those are built into it. So good question. And, if people are interested and want to actually help, you're always welcome to it. And there's multiple different admins. And I know I've actually been very impressed with some of the folks that go and create different groups within some of these social platforms, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or others. and they just have their own support communities, and it's closed and it's tight and it's focused, and hats off to you. I think that whoever's doing those, you're seeing some success, and hopefully we're able to make sure that it's good content, and when you need help or you need interactions, you're getting it as well. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? We've got another 4 minutes left for questions if anyone has any.
Michael, just a quick one. How long if nobody else has got one, how long are you planning on being out in that part of the world in the Pacific Islands? When are you planning on coming back? Because I'm keen to get over to Utah, and it's like you're avoiding me. I come to America and then you bugger off.
Yeah, no, it's we actually had flights this last week to go to Samoa and then to Oahu and then back to Salt Lake. So I'm projected to be back within the next couple weeks. But I actually went diving and then flew. I dove twice in a day and then flew within 24 hours and had to visit a hypobaric chamber. So basically they take you down for a couple hours and rebuild pressure and such. And then the doc was like, you can't travel for 6 weeks. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to travel next week. So anyhow, it's been good because, if I wouldn't have done that, then I wouldn't have been here for this event that we just went through, what I was just talking about. And it's just a lot of things are happening right here in the backyard. So it's really hard to just break away. Plus, as you know, when you travel to the other side of the world, when you're there, just get it done. So that's basically the answer. I don't want to be specific with you, but I will tell you that there's a large event in DC, and we do plan on having, this is actually the event here, so May 24th and 5th. I do plan on being in DC for that, and prior to that being in Utah. But let's just talk about particular dates when you come out and make sure I actually look forward to the day where I can actually see you and shake your hand in person and give you a hug and just get to know you, in the real world.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. But I think while we keep going on, I think Danielle Lariviere has a question for you. She wants to stick a hand up.
Okay, Danielle, go ahead.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
I hope you feel in top shape pretty soon.
I actually do I feel like $1 million other than a little bit of a cough, but I find that, you get a fever and you get a cough here when you come to the Pacific, and once you get over it, you're good to go. So I've kind of paid my dues and, had my, I feel much better. Thank you.
I was just wondering, I sent you an email regarding Tonga. Did you
I must have missed that. But I actually met with Tonga this last week, and I would welcome any kind of opportunity. Tonga is one of the only sovereign countries in the world that hasn't given up to colonialism, along with Samoa and some other, like the Kunas. But I don't recall seeing it. So let's pump it to the top of the inbox and get a response to it today.
I'm sending it back to you because I really think that this would be just incredible, an incredible opportunity. I'm sending it to you right now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for staying on it and continuing to push. I apologize if I missed that. There was literally 4 days that I was down. It was a fever and tons of, I literally, I just sweated for like 4 days. I didn't even unpack my bags. It was all I could do to stay hydrated. So I probably must have missed it during that period, but appreciate your follow-up there. So.
Okay. So the subject is Tonga, and I've re-forwarded it to you. So
done.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Well, we're at 6:30 Mountain Time, so we'll go ahead and wrap up now. But I appreciate you tuning in every week and just asking great questions and caring about the updates. I know in the future this will be something that is massively important for humanity, so to speak. And hopefully, to James's question, decentralization gets its opportunity to actually be realized, and it gets its because the deployment of the digital ecosystems is not anywhere close to being done. There are a lot of, it's like what we talked about before. There are a lot of different flavors that are out there in this new candy shop. And, you know, there'll be governments that actually care about their people. They care about privacy. They care about sovereignty. They care about costs of transactions. They care about who's in control and the user experience. And I really believe that those in the Pacific, they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, and they have the time and the attention, and they're organized. And, you know, are there problems? Yes. But are they easily overcome with a good heart and a good mind and an intellect that actually cares? Absolutely. And I know emphatically that it's here. I know historically we've talked about the role of government, you know, and I really do believe that government has a role, but it's a role that should also be a servant to the individual, to the citizen, to the family, to the community, to the tribes. And I see that here in the Isles of the Sea. These are good people, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. And, you know, to James's question, I'm actually sad to leave. I will be back. The work is just getting started here. So, but I appreciate all of you taking your journey around the world and putting up with the different mishaps, so to speak. But I look forward to seeing you next week, same time. And we'll go ahead and log off for this week, and we'll see you soon.
Thank
See
you.
later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.